Hey guys, I've decided to make a video for something I get asked a lot, which is how do you take your CobraTec apart and work on it yourself, clean it, things like that. So also, this is my very first video ever. I'm not a YouTuber, I'm not an influencer, I'm not a content creator, so please bear with me. All right, so the knife I've chosen today is going to be the large FSX, large, so it'll be easier to see on camera, and the FSX because it has a few steps that the others don't, so we'll be killing multiple birds at one time here. So for starters, what we're going to do is take the blade off track. Actually, this one came off track already, which is the reason I have it here to be worked on. There we go. So to take it off track, we're going to hold the blade as we try to retract it. That's going to allow the spring to collapse, and you'll see why once we get inside. And the other thing is, you'll notice you don't need anything fancy. This is just a cheap tool kit I got from Walmart or Home Depot or something like that. My nicer tools are in my storage with my show supplies. For this particular knife, we're going to be using a T8 Torx bit. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus on that. Actually, I think I need to pull it out in order to see that part. T8 Torx bit for the main screws, and then a T6 for the pocket clip back here. This is a reversible pocket clip, but the screws go all the way through the glass breaker, so you do have to take those out as well on this particular knife. You won't have to do that on some of the other ones, but on this one you do. I'm actually going to switch to the T6 Torx bit and start with the pocket clip on there. Speaking of that glass breaker, I do have one of my local law enforcement police officers I've become friends with. You would have seen him if you were at the local Louisville Flower Mound show, actually Louisville show here in the Louisville Flower Mound area. But he owns one of these knives as well. He absolutely loves it, by the way. And he has agreed, I talked to him yesterday, he has agreed to go out and do some testing on that glass break, see how it works, and report back to me. So, and then also while I'm taking these screws out, you will see the Amsoil in the background. I am an Amsoil dealer. If you need any Amsoil products, I'll be glad to hook you up with those. I use them in my own vehicles. And I've actually gotten a lot more life out of a recalled 6.2 GMC than what a lot of people are reporting. I don't know if it's the Amsoil, I don't know if it's the Lord. Either way, Amsoil is great products, and they do make gun cleaning supplies as well, so which works really good if you need to lubricate your knife. So I have some as well. Speaking of lubricating, one thing I like to do, because they don't actually require much lubrication, is I just have an oil cloth, a gun wipe, a lot of people like to call it, and I will just wipe the blade down before I stick it back in the knife. And that tends to be all they need. Actually, that's more than they need because they're actually meant to run dry. So they don't require a lot of lubrication. They don't require any lubrication. So if you add even just a light layer from a gun wipe, that is good enough. So, and I apologize, I am stumbling around with this. I normally use an electric screwdriver that will back these things out really quick. But again, that is in my supplies. All right, so you can see all I've done here at this point is just take the screws loose. Switch just falls away. Top plate comes off. And then now you just have a spring and a carrier, and then a blade. On this particular knife, this is another one of the extra steps that I chose this knife for. On this particular one, you actually have to take that little, I don't know, stud out of the blade in order to be able to get the blade out of the knife. One thing you don't want to do is mess with these two detents right there. Those detents, by the way, are what keep the blade inside and also what keep the blade outside. This is a very tight fit. So when you are stabbing it into things, like you may have seen me show you on the ammo can at the shows that we've stabbed one into, that's what keeps the blade from going back inside. You don't want to mess with those unless you absolutely have to. I've seen a few occasions where they will get some pocket lint inside there or something, and you need to get that out. If you do have to, you want to take just the smallest little bitty bit you can find, and come in up underneath that little spring right there, and then push it into your fingers. Keep it pinched until you can safely set it down, because that little spring will take off and you will never find it. You'll find it with all the missing socks that have come up missing out of the dryers. And then you'll reverse the process to put it back in. You'll pinch it between your fingers and then purse your fingers to put it back in there. But I'm here to tell you, don't mess with that unless you absolutely have to. So if you're taking it apart to clean it, what I like to do is just take a wet wipe, cram it down in those tracks, and clean the tracks out. You might even need to wipe off the blade if it's got some residue on it, especially tape residue loves to go back inside these knives. So it's a good idea to clean any tape residue off before you put your knife away if you've been using it to cut boxes, cut tape on boxes and things like that. So now to go back together. First I want to talk about the spring. This is the main reason I wanted to make a video, because this is what trips up the most people trying to put this thing back together, is this spring. You'll notice it's actually, the foot on each end is actually a different size. I'm trying to get the camera to focus on that. It's actually a different size, and people get tripped up and put it back the wrong way all the time, and then the knife won't go back together, and they don't realize this is the problem. So the shorter foot goes in the front towards the opening of the knife because it rides next to the blade. The rear foot is going to come in behind the blade so it can be bigger and it can be larger. Anyway, so that's the main thing. And that's also the reason I take the blade off track before I start working on it. This is my own personal knife. I'm going to talk about this one in another video. So, and I'll explain the tip. So you can make all your criticisms you want, but I'm going to explain that. Anyway, so I take the blade off track first. And this is the reason, so that the spring will collapse around the carrier plate and they will stay together as one unit. As long as you don't drop this, they will stay together just fine. If you do happen to drop it, it's gonna pop off and go shooting across the room. Take you 5 minutes to find it. But to put it back on, I always like to start with the back end, the larger foot. And I just realized I'm not looking at my camera, so I'm moving things all over the place. And I apologize, I do not have model hands. I have a lot of damage on there, mostly from some recent knife training. Hat tip to Scott Hunt with SWAT Optics. You would have seen him with the shows as well. If you need any fight training, he's going to be really good for that. But it does come with some injuries, so forgive my hands. Anyway, so, and I realize also that I did this without explaining it. So I like to, told you this is my first video, and you're going to see me go down chase a lot of squirrels too. I apologize. Anyway, so I like to start with the back end because that foot is larger, so it's easier to hold in place. And then you just stretch it to the front side, let it hook on, catch, hold. That's the number one thing that trips people up with these knives. These are super simple to take apart. But there's a couple of little things that people get tripped up on, and that's the main thing. Also, this little knot, this little stud, whatever you want to call it, that also trips people up if they have one of these FSX knives. On most of the other knives, you won't have to do this, but anyway, you won't get that blade out unless you remove this. In this case, we're going to put it back in also. You saw it's very easy as long as you get it nice and straight, because they are fully CNC machines, so everything is a precise fit. And that has to be perfectly lined up to get it back in. We are going to leave the blade half in, half out, disengaged, I like to call it. Off track is another way you can call it. And then we'll put this back in. You may have noticed there is a slot, a groove, a channel this has to go into. So when you get it back in there, you will want to slide it back and forth, make sure it seats down into that channel. Same for the switch. We're going to have to hold this in place till we get it back on. And I'm actually going to dump these screws out so I can show you another trick I like to do. You can see they're all out. We'll put this back on top, and then in this case, it actually went back together, but you do want to slide the switch back and forth to make sure everything has seated back in place and you don't have any grooves in here. Everything's nice and tight. So here's the other trick. If you're taking this apart because it's been messing up, it's been misfiring, things like that, you needed to clean it, and you want to test and make sure that it's going to work when you get it back together. You don't have to put all the screws back in. You can do that without the screws as long as you hold it good and tight. So we're going to reset the blade. We're going to test it. Oh, that's right. This one misfires. But anyway, you can do it. So as long as I keep it aimed down, it's going to work pretty much. But anyway, you saw the main thing that happens is that spring will want to come loose. Once it's tight and engaged, when the blade is in or the blade is out, the spring is going to be under pressure and it's going to want to try to push off sometimes. So that's the main reason you have to hold it good and tight. This top, and that's the main work of the top plate. We'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, so you want to hold it good and tight while you're testing it. Now that we've tested it, we see that it's going to work as well as it's going to. This one's going to have to go back in. I tried to work on this one myself, which I can, but every so often I do have to send it in to CobraTec and get them to fix it, and this is going to be one of them, as you saw. Anyway, so now we're going to put the screws back in. This is the part that I said we would get to in a minute, and that is that this top plate really only keeps the spring inside. It doesn't have very much integral strength, integrity. Oh, forgive me, my language is escaping me at the moment. So anyway, point is, if you start losing screws, which everybody does, if you don't test them every 1 or 2 months and tighten them, you will start losing the screws, but that's not really a big deal. And you can buy new screws from CobraTec at any point, by the way. They're happy to send them to you. You can buy most of the parts on this knife. If you bend the pocket clip, if you need a new spring, you want to get a new blade, anything like that, you can buy them from CobraTec, screws included. Screws are the number one thing. But you can get all the way down to just 2 screws. You know, put one on each corner, and that's going to be good enough. It's going to run just fine. You can get away without it. Another thing, people like to put some blue Loctite on there if they find that they're coming out too often. Especially people who use their knife a lot. You're putting it in your pocket, it's getting hot. You're taking it out of your pocket, it's cooling off. You're putting the blade in and out, you're adding vibration to it as the expansion and contraction is happening. So yeah, the screws are going to get loose, and you need to test them every once in a while, and you're going to lose them. I've lost them myself. But you can get them from CobraTec. They actually have a parts kit for $10, which will include all the screws and a spring. And now you're going to know how to put them back in yourself. So the main reason I am letting you see me tighten all these is you'll notice that I'm putting some good pressure on there, but I'm not just really cranking them down. If you add enough pressure, you can strip these like you can with anything, but you can actually add a good amount of pressure. The main reason I don't is because of this guy right here. You will twist those little teeth, or you'll just file them right off. I can't tell you how many times I've had to pull out my Dremel and grind it back down to a good part of the teeth. These things are not usually strong enough to get the screws as tight as you'd want them. The knife itself is most likely strong enough, but the bit almost never is. So far, I've never found one, as a matter of fact. I even went out and bought, I can't remember which one of the German brand, because I thought it would be stronger and be able to stand up to putting some good pressure on these screws, and it didn't. It still twisted those teeth. So if you find one, let me know, because I'm looking for it. I'd like to be able to get these screws tighter than I do. But anyway, that's the main thing I wanted you to be able to see for yourself. You know how I tighten these down. I just put some decent pressure on them, but it's your own tools you're going to be messing up if you try to really crank them down. So, and then once we get it back together, you can just flip it out like that. I did that on purpose, even though it went off camera. I apologize. But also you can just pull the blade out. But as long as nobody's around, nothing's going to get hurt. You can always just fling the blade out with centrifugal force. So there it is. We've taken it back apart. We've put it back together. Yes, I'm using an Amsoil mat because I'm an Amsoil dealer. If you need any Amsoil products, they make really good products. They do have some good gun cleaning supplies. I can help you out with that. I'm happy to sell them to you cheap, because I don't really do that for a living. And mostly, I do have some people I sell to, but mostly it's because I run it in my own cars, my own vehicles. And I guess that's about it. Thank you.